Okay, we are on chapter 11 of Chuju's house. Once more, Ling plowed the paddy and the rice was planted and the little fish swam about. I worried less about Ling, for there had been no more policemen. Ling and I had worn a path up and down the hill between our houses. After our work was through, we rested in the long twilights, chewing sunflower seeds and talking. Though we were together nearly every day, still there was always something new to say to each other. One evening, while we sat in Hana's bamboo grove, half hidden from sight, a pair of cranes dropped down onto the rice paddy. We were pleased, for cranes, which mate for life, are much admired for their faithfulness and considered good luck. The tall, long-legged gray birds with their brown-tipped wings and slender white striped throats began to call each other in a kind of duet. Then began a courting dance. The one bird would fly up and flutter about, and then the other bird would leap about doing the same. After they flew away, we were silent, for each year there are fewer and fewer cranes. After a moment, Ling smiled and said, "I will practice that dance, Chuju, if you will also." And our sadness left us as we laughed. There was another sadness. Hana's weakness had been increasing, but it had been so gradual that I had become used to her waning strength. Each day she did a bit less, and each day I undertook a bit more. With just the two of us and the 2 rooms, there was little to do in the house, so I thought nothing of the few tasks that fell to me. But on the first day of the 5th moon, Hana did not get up from her bed. She would not eat the rice gruel I brought to her. She put it aside and asked me to sit with her. "Chuju, you are a farmer now. You see how the rice is sown in the spring and harvested in the fall. One follows the other, and the harvesting is as necessary as the sowing. I am coming to the end of my days, Chuju." "No, Hana," I cried. I hung onto her hand, which was as dry and light as a piece of paper. "We will find a doctor to make you better." "The knowledge of a doctor will make no difference," she said. "I listen to my heart at night, and that is all the knowledge I need. I have been fortunate, Chuju. My hard times are long past. My husband loved the land and worked until he owned a bit of it. My son is safe, never mind that he is far away. He is happy where he is, and he has not forgotten me or shamed me. I would have given much to have him bring a wife and one day a grandchild to meet me, but there will be no time for that. I am content with what I have." She clasped my other hand. "It was a fortunate day, Chuju, when I saw you. Now you must write to Kwan and tell him to come and see me. Tell him he must come at once." I wrote the letter and we waited for Kwan. One day followed another, and each day Hana grew weaker. Though she was against it, I went to the village and gave the doctor money to come to the house. "You must go to the hospital in the next village," he told her, "and you must do it sooner rather than later." Hana refused, nor would she have needles or herbs. "Hana," I begged, "if you will do it for yourself, if you won't do it for yourself, do it for me." Hana only shook her head. Her gaze was always on the door, waiting for Kwan. I would have gone myself to drag Kwan home from his beloved city, but I could not leave Hana. It was nearly the end of the 5th moon when Kwan came. He was tender with his mother and wept at her weakness, but he took no notice of the rice paddy and sent me to the village to buy him the Shanghai newspaper. In the evening, Hana asked Kwan to carry her out into the courtyard so that she could see how the rice was growing. "Kwan," she asked, "could you not return to work the land? Chuju has added fish to the rice, so the paddy is as good as a lake. It is a wonderful thing." "No, Mama. I am happy where I am. I was never meant to be a farmer. There is nothing about putting my hands into the earth that raises my spirits. I am a builder. The choosing and lifting..." Can you sit over there? It's okay. You're fine. The choosing... "No, Mama, I am happy where I am. I was never meant to be a farmer. There is nothing about putting my hands into the earth that raises my spirits. I am a builder. The choosing and lifting and placing of the stones is what gives me pleasure, that and the great city." "But when I am gone, Kwan, what will become of the land and the money you have sent? It is all there. We have not spent a penny." "I will take the money I spent you. It may be that it will let me marry. Do what you want with the land." "Then it must be Chuju's. She has planted the rice and tended to it as she should be tended. Even the little fishes have thrived under her hand. Chuju will make enough money from the crops to pay the rent fees and the taxes. She is 18 now, and if she marries, her lease on the land will be her dowry." "But Chuju," Hana said to me and took my hand in hers, "do not think that the land is payment for caring for me. There can be no payment for that. Where there was your love, there is only my love. And Chuju, you must promise me to see your parents. Look how I waited for Kwan. Your mama waits for you as well. Promise me you will see her." I promised. In 2 days' time, Kwan was ready to return to the city, but Hana said, "Wait a few days and you will not have to make the return trip." Kwan was horrified. "Mama, are you to hurry with your dying so that I not need make second trip? I'm only going because I'm sure you will soon be well." No one believed Kwan's words, least of all Kwan. Hana had only a little strength, but with the little she had, she mended the worn places on her best jacket. Neither she nor I said a word, yet we both knew why she was mending, and why she carried it on. On the day Kwan was to return to the city, Hana died. I saw that Kwan was ashamed of his tears, and leaving Kwan with his mama, I took my tears out to the paddy. I thought back to the day when I had first seen Hana on the paddy working alongside Kwan. She had asked no questions of me, but had taken me into her house and given me a home. Her house had become my house. What would my life be without her? I had given up my own family, and now the only family I knew was gone. A soft wind rippled the rice, making green waves on a green ocean. Beyond our paddy were endless paddies, endless green oceans whose harvest would one day fill 1,000,000 bowls. In the distance, a heron stalked a frog, piercing it with its sharp beak, throwing it up in the air and swallowing it with one gulp. With all the plenty, there was cruelty. There had been Hana's love as wide as high, and now she was gone. And high is H-A-I, and that means the sea. Snatched from me forever. I hunched down and, covering my face with my hands, cried until there were no tears left. Ling's mama came bringing food and comfort. Together we readied Hana in the mended jacket and covered her face with a bit of silk cloth. Though I thought it superstition, I said nothing when Ling's mama bound Hana's feet together with string to keep her from moving about in the coffin should she become possessed by evil spirits. Ling's mama and I fashioned a wreath of white paper and bamboo, while Kwan wrote out stories of Hana's life on strips of white paper which he hung at the entrance to the house. A diviner was called and a date set for the funeral. I knew that it might be as long as a month before a date was chosen for the burial. Perhaps Kwan was generous with the diviner, for the diviner found the very next day to be an auspicious one. A coffin was purchased. A Taoist priest was summoned from the village to chant a sutra for the dead, and a musician came to play the suona. And the suona is a woodwind instrument often played at funerals, whose mournful music tore at my heart. An empty chair was carried in the procession so that Hana's spirit might join it and not stay behind to haunt the living, though I would have given much to have her about me. Along with the other women, I walked at the front of the procession. Ling's mama had instructed me that as a daughter of the house, I had a duty to cry and wail, which would help to destroy the barriers Hana might meet with as she started her long journey through the many realms of the underworld. I had no need to be prompted, for the crying and wailing came from my heart. When we returned home, Kwan had the priest kindle a small fire. Before those of us in the procession could enter Hana's house, we had to jump across the fire so that any evil spirits remaining from the death of Hana would be left behind. In all he did, Kwan honored Hana, yet I could see that Kwan was eager to return to Shanghai as soon as the funeral was over. There is nothing more I can do here, and every day I'm away, there is the chance that my job will be gone. Of the money I have sent, I will leave some yuan to carry you until the harvest, unless, Chuju, you wish to share it all with me. Share it? I asked, puzzled. It is yours, Kwan. You are generous to give me the land. You might have sold the lease and taken the money. I am no blood relation to you. It was my mother's wish, and I could not go against that. Had you not stayed with her, I would never have been able to leave her and go to the city. When I was here, each day in the paddy was like a prison. But Chuju, that is not what I'm speaking of. You could sell the lease and come with me to Shanghai. With the money of mine that Mama saved and the money from the land, we could marry and find a small room of our own. I stared at Kwan in amazement. I know I am older than you are, Chuju, but I am a hard worker, and it would be a great thing to live in such a city. You are clever and would have no trouble finding work. I've watched you since I've been here. You would make just the kind of wife I wish for. I thought of the city at night with all its lights. I thought of cinemas and stores with silk scarves and with everything one could want. I thought also of living in one room in one of the high buildings. I thought of the rush of people in cars and trolleys and the way when you went from place to place there was no path with paddies and bamboo groves, but only a dark tunnel that shot you like a bullet from one stop to another. You are kind, Kwan, but I would die in the city like a plant stuck into a pot of stones with no water on earth. I said nothing of Ling. Kwan looked disappointed but not surprised. Then we must go to the government office and register the lease in your name. You are 18 now, and there will be no trouble. The official at the government office frowned at Kwan. You are giving the lease for the land over to this young girl? Kwan produced a letter that Hana had a scribe write for her and that she had signed with her mark. It is all here. Chuju is to get the land, all 5 mu. We have the money for the fee, and she can pay the taxes when they are due as well as anyone else. The official looked at me and Kwan, and then at the money Kwan had given me for the fee to transfer the land. At first I thought he would say no, and instead he said, this transfer of lease is irregular and will cause me much extra work. He looked at Kwan. After a moment, Kwan said, I am sorry for the extra work. Let me increase the fee to make up for it. He put down more yuan, which the official swept up as quickly as the heron snatched the frog. The papers were completed and a seal put on them. Kwan handed them to me and led me out of the office. I will wait in the tea shop for the train, he took my hand. It was a day of great fortune when you came to us. I am only sorry you will not go back to Shanghai with me. With that, he hurried away, and I turned toward my land. And that is the end of chapter 11.